It is Wednesday, the 17th day of January 2024. Hello and welcome to the News International Edition. We're coming to you live from our Vision Group headquarters here in Kampala, Uganda. I'm Emma Akwero. We start our news today from Palestine, where Israel stepped up strikes on the south of war-torn Gaza on Wednesday ahead of the expected delivery of medicines for hostages in exchange for humanitarian aid, which is under a newly brokered deal. Airstrikes and artillery fire targeted Khan Yunis throughout the night.
It was the most difficult and intense night in Khan Yunis since the start of the war, said Gaza's Hamas government, whose health ministry reported 81 deaths across the Palestinian territory. Fighting has ravaged Gaza since Hamas' unprecedented October 7th attacks on Israel that resulted in the death of about 1,140 people, according to an AFP tally based on official Israeli figures. At least 24,448 Palestinians, about 70% of them women, young children and adolescents, have been killed in Israeli bombardments and ground assaults, according to the Gaza Health Ministry's latest figures. Hamas and other militants seized about 250 hostages during the October 7th attacks, and around 132 remain in Gaza, including at least 27 believed to have been killed. The fate of those still in captivity has gripped Israeli society, while a broader humanitarian crisis in Gaza, marked by the threat of famine and disease, has fueled international calls for a ceasefire. The agreement, announced on Tuesday, allowing medicines to reach the hostages and aid to enter the besieged Palestinian territory, was brokered by Qatar and France. Under the deal, medicine, along with other humanitarian aid, is to be delivered to civilians in Gaza in exchange for delivering medication needed for Israeli captives in Gaza, Qatar's foreign ministry said. The office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed the deal, under which 45 hostages are expected to receive medication. The International Committee of the Red Cross welcomed the deal, saying it was a much-needed moment of relief. A security source in Egypt said a Qatari plane carrying medicines had arrived on Wednesday at El Arish near the Rafah border crossing with Gaza. France said the drugs would be sent to a hospital in Rafah, where they would be handed over to the Red Cross and divided into batches before being transferred to the hostages. Hamas released dozens of hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners held by Israel during a November ceasefire mediated by Qatar, which hosts the group's political office. U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said he was hopeful Qatar brokered talks could lead to another such deal soon. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says during a panel at the World Economic Forum that any revitalized Palestinian Authority would need the support of Israel to work effectively.
You're talking about a government and a structure of governance that maximizes the ability of the authority to actually deliver what the Palestinian people want and need. But it also has to be able to operate in what you might call a permissive environment. In other words, with the support of, with the help of Israel, not with its active opposition. Because even the most effective authority is going to have a lot of trouble if it's got the active opposition of any Israeli government.
Still on the war between Israel and Palestine, Kafi Bibas, with his red hair and pink stuffed elephant, was less than 9 months old when Hamas militants snatched him from his bed in an Israel October 7th attack. The youngest hostage to be kidnapped by the Palestinian Islamist group was born on January 18th, and if still alive, would be celebrating his first birthday this week. His family marked the occasion with a cake and candles at Kubitz Ni Oz. In November, Hamas broadcast a video announcing the death of the baby, his brother and mother. But there has been no confirmation from Israeli officials, and relatives have since clung to the hope that they are not dead. Had Kafi still been there, his birthday would probably have looked like this week's celebration, with music and happy voices and smiles and family and friends, said Yossi Schneider, a cousin of the baby's mother. At least 24,448 Palestinians, more than 70% of them women, children and adolescents, have been killed in Gaza in Israeli bombardments and ground operations since October 7th, according to the health ministry of the Gaza Hamas government.
Probably will look the same thing, just with music and happy voices and smiles and family and friends, and not with sounds of planes and shooting. First of all, it's crazy that we're planning a birthday to somebody that's not here. That we putting all these balloons and making them cake and actually doing things that related to birthday, but the birthday kid is not here. I want to tell Shiri, not Kfir, that we are thinking about him every day, every second, every minute. And in one of the things that he did in the kindergarten, there is a drawer of Batman sign, and underneath, Ariel asked the kindergarten teacher to write, "I'm flying and saving people that's stuck inside of a pit." It's like a prophecy. It's amazing that 4 years old thought about it, and now he's in some hole on the ground, and nobody's flying to save him.
I do not wish this feeling for any mother. It is unbearable. My husband was separated from us 3 days prior to our release. As we found freedom, David was taken down to the darkness of Hamas tunnels. Every day, the David and the other 135 hostages are being held against their will is another day that I sit not knowing if I will ever see him again. Upon us, I can't sleep. I suffer from nightmares. The girls ask about their father constantly. Why doesn't he return from Gaza? Why are they still holding him there? Questions I have no answer to, just tears. I cry with them and think to myself how hard it is for a 3.5-year-old to be torn away from their loving father. I wake up in the bus only. David made me promise him that I will fight for him, that I will scream his despair to the world as he is unable to do so. I will not give up. I will not give up on you, David. You are the love of my life. I will not give up on the dreams we dreamt at this very place. I want my David to return to us today. Imagine.
Very sad there indeed. Now away from Palestine, let's move now to Kenya, where a court has given prosecutors 2 weeks to conduct mental health assessments of a cult leader and suspected accomplices before charging them with murder over the death of more than 400 followers. Self-proclaimed pastor Paul Nthengi Mackenzie is alleged to have incited his acolytes to starve to death in order to meet Jesus in a case that has shocked the world over.
Mackenzie was arrested last April after bodies were discovered in the Shakahola forest near the Indian Ocean, with autopsies revealing that the majority of the 429 victims had died of hunger. But others, including children, appear to have been strangled, beaten or suffocated. Mackenzie's pre-trial detention in the coastal town of Mombasa was extended on several occasions as the prosecution asked for more time to probe the case. But last week, a court warned the authorities that it would release the former taxi driver unless charges were filed within 14 days. On Wednesday, prosecutors asked Malindi High Court for a further extension to establish if 31 suspects, including Mackenzie, were fit to stand trial for murder. Judge Mugure Sande said he didn't think that there are enough psychiatrists to carry out the mental assessment within 1 week as requested by the defense team, given the large number of suspects. Therefore, the 14 days are requested by the prosecution team will suffice, she said, ordering the defendants to file pleas on February 6th. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions said on Tuesday that the state had sufficient evidence to prosecute 95 suspects and charge them with murder, manslaughter and terrorism. It was not clear when the remaining 64 suspects would be charged. The grisly case, dubbed the Shakahola Forest Massacre, prompted the government to flag the need for tighter control of fringe denominations. A Senate Commission of Inquiry reported in October that Mackenzie had faced charges in 2017 for his extreme preaching. He was acquitted of charges of radicalization in 2017 for illegally providing school teaching after rejecting the formal educational system that he claimed was not in line with the Bible. In 2019, he was also accused of links to the death of 2 children believed to have been starved, suffocated and then buried in a shallow grave in Shakahola Forest. He was released on bail pending trial. A largely Christian nation, Kenya has struggled to regulate unscrupulous churches and cults that dabble in criminality. There are more than 4,000 churches registered in the East African country of 53 million people, according to government figures.
Now from Comoros, security forces have responded with tear gas and arrests today after groups angered by the re-election of President Azali Assoumani tried to block roads in the capital. Debris and burning tires were scattered in several streets of Moroni, and the Indian Ocean Archipelaga's largest street market lay deserted on the morning after the disputed poll results were announced. We bring you details of this.
People in the Comoros capital of Moroni say they are scared after rising tension spilled into the streets following the announcement of the presidential election results. Some parts of the capital are barricaded with burning tires and security forces on alert amid the unrest after former coup leader Azali Assoumani won re-election. Government spokesman Haumedi Masiadi, speaking to AFP, accused the opposition, which has denounced former military ruler Assoumani's election win as a fraud, of organizing the protests. There have been arrests, but I can't give you the figure for the moment. It's totally normal when there are people out there who want to disturb public order. There have been no reports of deadly violence, but the Comoros, a 3-island chain that is home to around 870,000 people, is politically volatile and has seen 20 coups or attempted coups in its short history since independence in 1975. Police and armed soldiers were deployed in large numbers as the day began. They used tear gas to drive civilians from the streets and back into their homes. In the working-class Kole district in the north of the city, groups of youth threw stones at the troops, but many residents were making ready to flee, anticipating further tension. According to official results released on Tuesday, Assoumani, a 65-year-old former coup leader turned civilian president, was re-elected in Sunday's first-round election with 62.97%. But official turnout was unexpectedly low, 16%, and supporters of the 5 defeated opposition candidates have carried fall, alleging ballot stuffing and fraud. The incumbent president of the Comoros, Azali Assoumani, says he's pleasantly surprised by his victory in Sunday's presidential election, which is being contested by his rivals who allege ballot rigging. It was the people of the Comoros who made the choice. So yes, in our predictions we're expecting it, but we are pleasantly surprised by the outcome. Now the hardest part remains showing the people who put their trust in us that they were right to do so. We are going to carry on. We've already made a start on everything, whether it's education, health, roads, energy or entrepreneurship. It's all underway. Now it's time to consolidate. There is nothing new to begin. Everything has to be built on.
Now, Ukraine's foreign minister has said its priority in the year 2024 will be to gain control over its skies as Russia's full-scale assault enters its third year. His comments at the World Economic Forum in Davos came just hours after Russia drone and missile attacks overnight wounded 20 people across Ukraine. The drone barrage left massive craters in the southern city of Odessa, where journalists saw residential buildings charred in the wake of the assault.
Kuleba said in an address to the World Economic Forum in Davos that in 2024, the priority is to throw Russia from the skies because the one who controls the skies will define when and how the war will end.
Consists of different battles, and if we remain focused on the struggles and battles which were not as successful as expected, then we will, of course, help to proliferate defeatist voices, and we will reinforce the Russian message.
Kyiv has long called on the West to deliver advanced fighter jets to support its troops entrenched in the south and east of the country. Officials in Kyiv have seen a steep rise in civilian casualties since December as Moscow intensifies air attacks, reversing a downward trend seen earlier in 2023, the United Nations has warned. Kyiv said earlier that Russia had launched 20 Iranian-designed attack drones at targets in southern Ukraine overnight, but that its air defense systems had destroyed all but one. The conflict has ground to a stalemate after Ukraine's long-awaited counter-offensive last year failed to punch through Russian positions. Kuleba called for patience among Ukraine's key Western backers, insisting that with the right support, Ukraine could be victorious.
We defeated them on the ground in 2022, we defeated them on the sea in 2023, and we are completely focused on defeating them in the air in 2024.
His comments echo remarks by President Volodymyr Zelensky, who said on Tuesday that Ukraine must gain air superiority to enable progress on the ground. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba calls for patience among Ukraine's key Western backers and insists that with the right support, Ukraine could be victorious.
That will require providing Ukraine with planes, which are underway, F-16s are underway, long-range missiles, drones, and Ukraine significantly ramped up production of drones, and of course electronic warfare. So if all of that comes, we will continue winning and we will continue liberating. But you know, we are fighting a very big enemy, a powerful enemy, an enemy that doesn't sleep, so it takes time.
Various NATO countries are currently training Ukrainian pilots on American-made F-16 fighter jets. Denmark said earlier this month it would transfer 19 F-16s in the second quarter of this year. Washington had previously resisted allowing the jet transfers for fear of being deemed a direct belligerent in the Ukraine war by Moscow. Moscow, meanwhile, announced Wednesday that Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov would travel to New York next week for a meeting of the United Nations Security Council.
And finally, Rwanda says it has shot and killed a Congolese soldier and arrested 2 others after they crossed the border and opened fire as tensions simmer over violence in DRC's Congo's volatile east. The 3 soldiers entered Rubavu district, which borders the main Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo's city of Goma on Tuesday, the Rwanda Defense Force said in a statement. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on Tuesday met Rwandan President Paul Kagame at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, praising Kigali's efforts to reduce tensions even as news of the latest border clashes emerged. The meeting is the latest sign of U.S. hopes for managing the conflict by working with Paul Kagame, who has faced U.S. criticism in the past.
A couple of years ago, what did you see? Yeah. I like to listen.
Given many things, we supporting the resolution to the problems we have in our region.
We're committed to doing everything we can to support the efforts that are being made, including by Angola, by Kenya, to support the efforts toward a peaceful resolution of differences and avoiding conflict in the eastern DRC.
And that's all the international news we had for you this afternoon. We'll be back again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Thank you for watching. Have a good afternoon.